Hello composers, and welcome to another video where I am talking about more sounds. I feel like one of the things that most people don't know, most composers that I end up seeing, they really don't know that you can just get a lot of free software to compose with. And so it's important to me to make sure you know this. Is it my job? I don't think so, but I want to make sure that you know that there are a lot of free things that you can use to compose with out there. What good is having a computer and a keyboard if you don't have any sounds? And so today, what I wanted to talk about was the BBCSO Discover Orchestra, and I've had this for a long time, and I use it all the time. I've used it this week. It's very useful, and I'll get into how I use it. I'm also going to walk through all the sounds. And not a good sign if my voice is already cut down. I'm going to walk through all the sounds of the orchestra and kind of show you what is going on with it. So let's start with the violins, where you start everything with violins 1. And, I think this is serviceable, if not that great. All right, so let me just do one thing real quick. This big dial here, that's big round dial. This big round dial is extra reverb. And let me tell you, on the BBCSO Discover, you do not need to be using this. Now, I already have a little bit of reverb on this channel just for in general use, because I'm going to compare this and add in some Logic instruments at some point here, so you can see what the Logic instruments do alongside BBCSO, because I think that's the real strength here, is combining BBCSO Discover with some of your other orchestral things you might have, be they free, be they come with your DAW, or maybe you have other not super expensive libraries or free libraries, and you can combine that with BBCSO. I think that's really where the power here is. And so when we're going to take all that extra reverb, and we're not even going to deal with this big dial of reverb. It really doesn't do all that much in this except bring in more reverb. And because BBCSO is really literally one big tree mic or something that's just picking up the entire orchestra, that's why it's free. It doesn't have mics, all different mic selections and all that kind of stuff. So you don't get a lot of different mic selections, and so you really just get what you get. And so if we're looking at this here, we've got one beautiful thing about this is you really do get articulations, which, if you don't know what articulations are, it's just different ways the violins sound. Long, spiccato, which is a shorter but harsher bowing, pizzicato, which is a plucked sound. You can probably get that on just about everything. But with that, you hear just how much of the room you're getting. This is really the main bad news with the BBCSO Discover, is that you are getting this big microphone capturing mostly room noise. Yes, it's cut in the BBC Symphony hall, which is the whole point of this orchestra, but you better like that hall, because you're going to hear most of that on all of these sounds, except for just a very few. This is why this is probably more useful for me as a library, an orchestral library to add to other things that I have. And then you have tremolo, which is an interesting add on all of these. Kind of a fast bowing back and forth. So on all the strings, you pretty much get all 4 of these articulations, which is very nice. And you also get the ability to bring in dynamics with your modulation wheel here. And then if you have the ability to set a controller, my This particular keyboard, the Complete S61, has a way I can do volume up and down. I really don't use that. I mostly just use this. Use the mod wheel to bring in and out dynamics. All right, so that's the violins, and they have all this, and then we'll just go across the string section. We have violins 2. Also spiccato. Pizzicato. Let's compare that to the violins pizzicato. Violins are a little bit more washed out than the violins 2. Violins 2 seem a little bit more in your face, so that's interesting. And then we have the violas, which have long spiccato. And this is getting to a point. Did you hear how that just changed there? When I got to that C, this is kind of like washed out. But suddenly I'm hearing the real resin of the bow. This is a lesson here that I wanted to talk about with just all orchestral type programs, and that is that sometimes you will get a sound that sounds better in a certain range. And if that's the case, guess what? You need to figure out how to use that certain range. So if I was working with this pizzicato viola's sound here, I would start right around that C where it starts to grab. You can tell when I go up to that D, it just loses all of that grip that it has on the string. This is what I love about violas anyway. They're my favorite instrument right now. Spiccato violas. Now, let me compare that real quick because I made a comparison earlier with the studio strings in Logic. And in the studio strings, I have up a pizzicato viola sound. Let me just play that with you and show you the difference. That's pizzicato. Let me show you the spiccato. Hear how that's so much more close mic'd. All right, so now I'm going to start to get into why and how BBCSO Discover can be super helpful for you, especially if you have Logic and you have studio strings, and you were to take this spiccato and we're going to hit record on both channels, and now I'll be able to hear both. Let me just play the BBC by itself. Now let me add in the studio strings. If I just play studio strings by themselves, then I add in, and I can take that room sound down a little bit. So you're basically doing your own close miking. You can adjust the close mic'd sounding studio strings I have in Logic or whatever other program you might have, and you can take that and add in the BBCSO hall, the great sound of that hall. And suddenly get some nice kind of mesh sound. And to me, that's what is very special about this. I see Ruth is here today. Ruth, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. And I hope that you enjoy what we're talking about today. I will try and find you guys. I never remember how to find comments. Oh, yeah, there you are. So, Ruth, thanks for joining us. Glad to have you here. And yeah, we're just talking about these different software, but definitely talking today about Spitfire Audio's BBCSO, and just showing you some different things that Logic does as well. So, all right, let me go back to this and turn that off. So thanks, Ruth, for being here. So I hope this is being helpful so far, and my goal here is really to just make sure you see how I am, what I'm doing here. And let me get BBCSO back up, because that is the star of the show. And so that is the violas we walked through. They have also pizzicato violas. Oops, I got to turn off studio strings. Kind of muted. And again, you're hearing the room sound. You're hearing the great hall sound of this. And then it has a tremolo as well. So, and then we move on to the cello and the cellos, and you have the longs. When we get to the spiccato, the lows are really where that shines. Then we have the pizzicato. And tremolo. So all the strings are the same. Now, when we get to the basses, something interesting happens. Suddenly, they don't sound as room-filled to me. I don't know why this is the case. And even if we go to the spiccato, maybe the mic they had was closer to the basses that they were using, but I seem to hear it better. Let me get a little bit more room sound there. So that is doing what that's doing. But the longs, so that is the string sounds all the way from violin 1, violin 2, violas, cellos, and basses. And in the back here, we got horns. So let's just go ahead and jump over to the horns now. We've got the trumpets. And they also... the brass only comes with longs and shorts, so you got a staccatissimo. The reason they gave you this instead of staccato is because staccato is not short enough to be a really good short, especially probably with this this big reverb you have going on from this hall, getting the hall sound. Again, as we get to the lower range, hear a little bit more bite and attack on the trumpet. So one of the tricks of using these orchestral instruments is to find out where it sounds the best. Sometimes it's not going to be up to you how you voice the parts and what instrument you use to play the parts, because you're going to come to Spitfire Audio and play up here and you're going to say, that's not the trumpet sound I want for that particular passage. But if you were playing something low and you're going... so yeah, that's got good bite. So you've got to play to the instrument a lot of times when you're dealing with some of these plugins. It's just the way that it goes. It's not up to you, really. You have to, either the sound is good in that octave, in that range, or it's not. But that's the trumpets here. And again, mixing those with other trumpets will help. And that's what I do a lot of times. I'll get into that more. Trombones. And the staccatissimo. which is not bad. Again, a lot of room sound. And to be honest, I have to tell you, I do have a little bit of room sound on, but not enough just to blend it in with my other instruments. I'll show you as we go. That's the actual sound. You can hear the hall. And I've got a little on, but you really can't tell. That's trombones. We move on to bass trombones. And each of these, by the way, gives you a little description of the instrument and tells you a little bit, maybe even how to use it. And this says the rich texture at the lower end of the range adds a unique timbre to this instrument. In other words, the bass trombones, a lot of people don't even think about bass trombones. They just think about trombones and trumpets and tubas. But the bass trombones add in kind of a another range. It's not exactly a tuba, but it's you hear it a lot of times in orchestral music where they really want that blatty sound, because the tuba's not going to sound like that. So you've got that, the longs, and you've got the shorts. And again, that is different than the tuba. Here's tubas. It's got a very shaky G there. And here's the staccatissimo. You can hear how that's different than the staccatissimo of the bass trombone. Much more blatty for those kind of moments. So that is your brass sections. Also, we have the horns way over here. And this is the French horns, if you don't know. Let's play them up high. So that's the French horns, and they also come with staccatissimo. Not exactly grabbing, but there they are. Hey, I see we've got another friend that has joined us. Arco is in the house. How you doing, Arco? Arco says, you should do this more. Well, I just did it last week, Arco, and I'm trying to do it more. Every Wednesday at noon is my goal for Hello Composers. Live streams where I just talk about instruments and or some composing things that I'm doing. And so join me every Wednesday at noon here on the channel. And that's been my goal for a long time, but I'm getting it done now because I've cleared out most of my weeks now for composing. Also, I'm not even going to say this. Sir, maybe try the bass an octave less. Okay. Thanks for being here. An octave less. I don't know. Are you talking about the bass trombones? So thanks for joining us here. Glad you're here. All right. Well, next I want to just continue to go through these instruments here. So let's get back to the brass horns. Actually, we're going to move on to woodwinds now. And let's start at the low end of the woodwinds with the bassoons. Need to turn up this thing a little bit here. Again, you can hear the longs at the top, very legato-y. When we get to that D, it starts to get a little bit more defined. And staccatissimo. And ooh, it sounds nice down there. See how I mean they sound different in different places. It loses definition as it goes up. Now, this is an area where I want to show you combining this with the solo bassoon staccato of Logic and show you how it just changes. I'm going to bring this in slowly. If we only hear the, that's just the Logic stock bassoon sound. a little bit more close mic'd. And this is really where I'm getting to with this BBCSO Orchestra, is that since it's very high mic'd, far away mic'd, if you have some closer mic sounds like I do here in Logic, and then you bring that with the BBCSO, you get this very three-dimensional sound. You can even pull the close mic down a little bit. So you get both a close mic sound as much as you want it, and then you also get a very far away mic sound, and you get that kind of ability to mix and match your sound and make your sound the way you want it. And you can't do that otherwise. I mean, you could continue to add some verb and stuff like that inside Logic with the bassoon that comes with it. But to add this Spitfire rich sound of this BBC Symphony Hall in with a close mic thing from Logic or whatever other bassoon sound you might have, suddenly this free orchestra, have I mentioned it's free? This free orchestra, you get to add these rich bassoons in this hallway. And yeah, they may not be close mic, but if you have other bassoon sounds that are stock sounds inside of whatever program you have, for me it's Logic, they work great together in mixing them. All right, let's move on away from bassoons. I love the bassoon, but let's move away to another instrument that I love, clarinets. And then the staccatissimo. Now again, I've got some clarinets here. Let's add the clarinets from Logic in with the BBCSO. It's a little too much of the Logic clarinets. Let's pull it down. Now, neither are great top-of-the-line clarinets. I have some really good clarinets in some of my other programs like Orchestral Tools. But this is a way, again, that you can use these by get more close mic if you need to, if you have other samples. So that is clarinets. Let's move on to flutes here and just play the flutes. Sorry, oboes we're moving on to. And staccatissimo. So, kind of shows you how that works. And again, I think this is a fine sound for a hall type sound that you would mix with another oboe. Let's look at flutes. Again, let me mix that with a legato flute from Logic. So you get a closer legato flute sound mixed with the BBC Symphony Hall. And I think that's the real magic of this free program. And that's how I use it a lot. I'll have some nice close mic'd sounds, and then I want to make that bigger, larger, the string section larger. I'll pull in first and second violins from BBCSO, and suddenly the entire flute section just sounds larger and richer. So it's another great way to use this. Staccatissimo with flute. And then we finish up with piccolo. Everyone's favorite. And that is the main orchestra. Now, behind the orchestra, we have some other things I haven't gotten to yet, including harp. Not the greatest harp in the world, but if I mix that with the Logic harp, Logic has a really nice harp, and you mix those two together, you get a really nice, rich sound. It also has a celeste. Take this harp out. Really nice sounding celeste, and that one works really well because a lot of times you want that kind of room sound, and for some reason that sounds closer to the mic too than some of these other sounds. And then moving around the percussion section, we have timpani by itself. Then we have all the untuned percussion, which is just laid out across the keyboard. You have lots of percussion there laid out there. Again, you're pretty stuck with the room sound that's on it. But for most orchestral things, you want some kind of room sound for these things. So it's going to work just fine into having that sound. Nice, long, rich tail too on it. And then finally, we end up with the tuned percussion, starting with the tubular bells. Not bad, not much. You might want to combine those with another sound that's a little bit more close mic to get more of the actual hit. We have marimba. Which is, again, got a lot of room sound in it. Xylophone. Good sounding, and for most orchestral things where you want that kind of plucky xylophone sound, you're going to get it really good there. And glockenspiel. All right, and so the only thing I really haven't talked about, I did see a comment here. Let's go over and see this. Sir, you may call me Shakti. Well, Shakti, thanks so much for being here. It's very actually nice of you composing from free plugins for us. Really appreciate it. I've been using the BBC Orchestra for a while. Well, you are welcome. He also says, but I think the strings from Labs, which also in Spitfire is quite realistic, and maybe later on you can use it and show us. Yeah, I should do a Labs day. There's so much in Labs to use, and it's another free set of instruments. And again, if you combine them with this, I think you'd be in really good shape, right? You could use this and Labs and have a lot going on there. So I think that is one of the strengths. Spitfire gives you a lot for free. And we haven't even talked about Piano Book. And so that's a whole nother thing that we could do as well. But lastly, let's look at the piano. This is rather new to the orchestra or to this plugin, is the Spitfire Audio Symphony Orchestra BBCSO piano, which is somewhat underwhelming when I got it, but it's fine. And for just a orchestral piano that you want behind things, it's not bad. There are better pianos, and as Shakti said, you could find them in Labs. You can also find them in Piano Book. Lots of pianos to be able to supplement the piano in this. So I think it's fine. I think it sounds better when I'm playing it on my 88-note controller than it does when I'm playing it in here. So that is the piano, just a Steinway Model D Grand, they say. But I find it underwhelming, but fine. So that is the orchestra. And now let me get back to my notes here real quick and get back to my program here. And I'll tell you that like I said, I'm really happy with BBCSO Discover. It's useful for me. I'm going to pull up and show you a piece here in just a minute where I have used it. And I think the best way to use it is how I've been talking about mixing it in with other orchestras you might have. So let me save this real quick and bring up another file to show you how I've been using it on my very first concerto, actually. Don't know if I'll need this again, but always save. And let's call up this newest piece I've been working on. And this is the first movement of my very first concerto. I've written my very first, and if you don't know what a concerto basically is a orchestral symphony piece featuring an instrument. So for instance, in this case, it's featuring a piano. So the piano would be out front and the orchestra would be surrounding the piano. And you've probably seen this many times with the piano, and the orchestra will stop just for the piano. Sometimes the piano won't play and it'll just be orchestral parts. And then the piano will be featured and it'll be virtuosic and doing all sorts of stuff. Now, this is kind of a rough mix of this song, but I do want to show it to you because I'm very happy with the way it's going. And this is called Vivacissimo, this first movement, and it is pretty fast. So let's just talk about this, get my notes out of the way there, and I'm going to get me out of the way as well, and let you just hear how this sounds from the beginning. And I'll tell you how I used BBCSO. You can see BBCSO in the, let me get me out of the way. You can see BBCSO in some of the tracks here. I can see it here. I used it with these strings, and I'll talk about why I used it with the strings. I don't think I use it anywhere else just yet in this piece, but here's a little bit of, I'll play this from the beginning. Why not? You guys are the first to hear the very first movement of my very first concerto, so I hope you like it. Here it goes. All right, so that is the first movement so far of a whole little concerto that I'm working on, and I do want to show you actually. How do I get me back on there again? I want to show you how I am using this. Where is it? How do I get my picture back on there again? I've forgotten. Yeah, if you could, if you're watching this, give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. It'll get more people watching this. I just got to remember how I bring me back in to the picture here. There's a way. So I just want to show you Logic Pro, right? No, I don't want to show you that. So I'd be interested in your thoughts in the comments. This is all very new, and really just working on this. And I wanted to show you where I use BBCSO in this as just an example. Now, I have to tell you, the middle part of that, the B section, is completely new, and as you can tell, not very filled out. I had really done the main part of this before I decided to make it a piano concerto, and I'll have another piece on this. But I decided to do that in a different way and put the piano part in, and so it really becomes it becomes more of a piano featured piece. And I haven't the piano is just kind of a first walkthrough of how it's going to be, and so I don't necessarily have that there, but I hope you enjoyed that and like that. So let me show you what I did here. I can't seem to bring my picture back up in here, but let me just show you down here. We've got these high strings, and there's a part at the end where the high strings come in and they play here. I'll start out with some Albion 1 strings. And I added some Musio strings, which are like cinesamples. And then I wanted just that next little touch of I don't know. I just wanted a little bit more of that kind of richness, and so I brought the BBCSO violins in. Now, on their own, they don't sound that great until you add that richness in with the other sounds from Spitfire and from Musio, and then you get this. So I think that's nice. And let me get back to the show here. So that's really what I do with BBCSO a lot, is I will bring it in as a next level of quality, or just another level of bigness, especially with something like that where I'm trying to get a really big, rich sound. Shakti says, "Sir, really honored to listen to this piece. Really loved it. Didn't know we could do this with just a free plugin." Well, you can't do what I just showed you with a free plugin. The only thing that's in this piece is the BBCSO violins that I added onto the violins. But yeah, you can do a lot with this. If you go back to this video, you can see that you can do a lot with all the sections of this. And I'm using a lot of different things here. I'm using Musio. I'm using Albion 1. I'm using some of the things in Logic as well. And then also said, what was this? Do you say? Oh, just curious to know, do you have a musical background? Yes, I have been playing and composing since I was 13. I did not go to school for music the first time through. I was in band. I was a keyboard player since synthesizers came out, literally. And so I basically have been playing and writing since I was a teenager. And so about 40 plus years. And I did go back and get my my bachelor's. Finally finished my bachelor's in my 50s, 40s, and went back late in life and finished my bachelor's studying music history, music business, and then I got my master's degree in composition just a few years ago at the University of Central Florida. So really had a good time doing that and writing things, and it's really awakened a classical side in me, and so that's why I'm pretty excited to have this this piece that I'm working on right now. And this is just the start of what I've decided is going to be a multi-movement piano concerto. But there's a lot of work to do on this as of yet. So so that's where we are with. So let me just show you again what I did here with this. I just used the BBCSO violins, and all I did was, wait, let me show you. You'll need to see the entire screen so you see the, so you can see the plugin. And for some reason, I still can't get me on the screen. Where am I? Where's Eric? Oh, well. So yeah, that is the BBCSO. I think I've gone through all the things. If you've missed anything, if you've got any questions, let me know. Like I said, I just used the violin ones on this, the longs, and added them to what was also high strings from Albion and also Museo Cinesample strings. But that's pretty much it, folks. That's all I really wanted to show you here. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been opened your eyes a little bit to this free plugin that you can get from Spitfire Audio. I will have the link in the description below how you can get to this. And then they do have next level programs. The BBCSO core is pretty much thought of by a lot of people as a pretty meat and potatoes good first orchestra, and I think it's only about $399, $400, something like that. I'm not really sure. And then there is a big old version with every mic that's imaginable and all that kind of stuff that you can move up to. I'm not sure of the name of that one, but I'll put the links to this particular orchestra from Spitfire down below. Also, how you can go get it at Sweetwater if it's something that you're interested. But this, you want to follow the Discover link and go get it for free if you don't have it, because it's a fantastic thing to have, and it's not really that taxing on your computer, and it's also not very hard to install. It's also not very intensive on your computer. So yeah, I appreciate any thumbs up you can give me for this video. I hope it's helped, and I hope that this helps you in your compositions to make your first piano concerto or orchestral movement of some kind, because the sounds are pretty good for free. Did I mention free? So that's it. I hope you've had a good time. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. We'll see you later. Goodbye, composers. Arrivederci.